We came off stage and there were 10 girls in the shower with soap and shampoo, ready to wash us. It was like, we could probably get used to this.
Lars Ulrich recalls that once they're naked in the shower, getting their hair wet, you don't need to go very far to hit a home run. The band was booked on a tour of Japan by the legendary promoter Mr. Udo, and upon joining the band, Newsted endured a 7-day baptism of fire. For 7 days, he was the new kid and would be subject to the kinds of hazing one might expect a pledge to go through at a college fraternity house. The pranks which he fell prey to in Japan included being told that the large serving of wasabi on his plate was green pickle, only to have his eyes light up to the point of tears as he took a massive bite. The band would drink themselves under the table and end up charging the bill to Newsted's room with absolutely no consideration to the fact that at the time, Newsted was being paid just $600 per month. The band also took great delight in informing anyone who would listen that Jason Newsted was a homosexual. Newsted recalls today that it was certainly fraternity stuff. How much can you drink? Can we wake up in the middle of the night and turn all the furniture in your room on top of you and run away laughing and everything's cool? We were all 22 or 23 at the time. It was really all in good fun, Newsted would later recall. While it might have been all in good fun, Newsted might have been less accepting of the mix for And Justice for All, the band's fourth album. And he was right to, because the bass was barely audible. Lars Ulrich maintains that it wasn't intentional.
It wasn't a case of fuck this guy. It was more a case of turning the guitar and drums up, but basically, we kept turning them both up until the bass just disappeared.
Newsted would end up telling Rolling Stone magazine many years later, "I can't explain how much grief I dealt with and still deal with over that record." Flemming Rasmussen, the Danish producer who worked on Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and the Justice album, said that he and assistant engineer Toby Wright are two of the few people in the world that have heard the bass tracks, and they were fucking brilliant. Bass or no bass, And Justice for All was released on September 7, 1988, and went on to peak at number 6 on the Billboard 200 chart and stay there for a further 83 weeks, rather than drop off the chart after a week or two, as metal albums are prone to do. This was a huge milestone, not only for Metallica, but for the burgeoning heavy metal genre. The album was certified platinum 9 weeks after it was released, and 1.7 million copies were sold in the United States by the end of 1988. One of the album's standout tracks, One, was an anti-war song, and it depicted a World War I soldier who was severely wounded, arms and legs blown off by a landmine, blind and unable to speak or move, begging God to take his life. His only hope is to devise a way to communicate with the hospital staff. It was loosely inspired by the 1971 film Johnny Got His Gun. The video for the song, which depicted said World War I soldier, quickly became the most requested song on MTV's Headbangers Ball. This helped Metallica escape the 2-hour slot occupied by the Headbangers Ball and make their break for MTV's evening playlist. Within weeks, the song found itself occupying the number 1 slot on MTV's weekly video countdown, the first time such a feat had been achieved by a metal band. Kirk Hammett recalls, "Wow, this is like nothing else that's on MTV right now. I can't believe they're actually playing it." When the video was over, the presenter came on and said, "Well, that's depressing. On a happier note, here's Huey Lewis and the news." On the back of all his success, Metallica were nominated for a Grammy in the brand new category of Best Hard Rock and Metal Performance. They were nominated alongside AC/DC, Jane's Addiction, Jethro Tull, and Iggy Pop. Lars Ulrich could be seen on camera grinning ear to ear just before the winner was announced. The award, presented by Alice Cooper and Lita Ford, clearly made Alice Cooper uncomfortable as he struggled to wipe the briefest look of shock from his face before reading out the winner.
And the winner is Crest of a Knave, Jethro Tull.
The award would be the first in a long run of questionable awards granted to bands over the years, particularly in the Best Metal Performance category. In 2010, Judas Priest was honored with the Grammy in the Best Metal Performance category for their song Dissident Aggressor, which might sound all well and good, but it was simply a live version of a song that was recorded in 1977, and it won out over original new songs from the likes of Lamb of God, Ministry, Slayer, and Megadeth. Jethro Tull didn't accept the Academy's invitation to attend the ceremony because they knew they would not win. The subsequent Damaged Justice tour would see Metallica play 219 shows over just 13 months. And while Metallica were entering escape velocity, Megadeth were battling drugs, lineup changes, and a revolving door of girlfriends and managers. Megadeth's search for a new guitarist would last for several months. During this time, the then three-piece band found the time to record a cover of Alice Cooper's No More Mr. Nice Guy for the soundtrack to Wes Craven's film Shocker. Penelope Spheris, the much-respected director of documentaries such as The Decline of Western Civilization and later Wayne's World, was tasked with directing the video for the song. But Mustaine was too fucked up to play the guitar during the shoot. Spheris had him playing on a giant rotating pedestal, kind of like a big turntable, recalls Dave. Picture Mustaine, completely off his head, trying to play guitar while everything is spinning and rotating and bobbing up and down. Keep playing, Dave. Keep your eye on the camera. Turn around and look at the camera. No, too fast. Over here. Fuck, man, I can't do this. Months went by and the 80s drew to a close. Slowly though, over the course of another trip to rehab, and at the behest of managers with varying degrees of tolerance for Mustaine's ways, Mustaine began to get healthy. But there was still the issue of the vacant guitar player role. Mustaine walked into the office of Megadeth's new manager, Ron Lafette, and saw an album cover on his desk. Dragon's Kiss was the title of the record. It was a solo effort by a guitar player called Marty Friedman. Mustaine picked up the record and tried not to laugh. On the cover was Friedman wearing a shimmering leather jacket jumpsuit, open to the waist. His hair had been styled into long flowing two-tone locks. "You're shitting me, right? Just listen to it, okay?" Less than 2 minutes into the first track, Mustaine was sold. But he was also a little shocked. This guy wants to join us? Marty Friedman got the gig, despite what Mustaine calls his bad hair, bad clothes, and totally uncool name. Mustaine actually suggested that Friedman use his middle name, Adam, to inform his stage name, Adam Martin. But Friedman shot down the idea. Although many years later, Friedman would adopt the moniker Adam Martin as the name for his publishing company. But as the pair spent more time together, it became painfully obvious to Mustaine that Friedman was a better guitar player than he was, better and more committed to his craft. And this was a wake-up call to Mustaine, reminding him just how much he had been slacking. And rather than use this as fuel to level up, it became a trigger, sending Mustaine back to the warm embrace of cocaine and heroin. But things were changing. Mustaine wanted to get clean, but struggled with the paradox of being a loud, rude, aggressive guitar player, singing about annihilation and pain, while he was, as he puts it, turning into vanilla pudding. Help came in perhaps one of the most unlikeliest of places, given their earlier exchange on the topic. Alice Cooper. Dave Mustaine called Alice Cooper to discuss a tattoo he was going to get, a cross between Megadeth's mascot, Vic Rattlehead, and Alice Cooper's billion-dollar baby. And on the call, Cooper asked,
"How are you, Dave? I'm trying to do things differently. It's really hard." "Oh yeah? Well, if you ever need help or anything, I want you to know that I'm here for you." "Really, Alice? What, are you gonna be like my godfather or something?" "Sure, if that's what you want."
And that's how Alice Cooper became Dave Mustaine's godfather. And Cooper went on to be there for Dave Mustaine over the ensuing years. This was the first time Dave Mustaine was actually able to say, "I need help." And it was just in the nick of time. Megadeth now had a healthy Dave Mustaine and Dave Ellefson. They had Nick Menza behind the kit and Marty Friedman on the axe. They were primed to live up to the mission statement that they had penned over half a decade earlier, to become the fastest, utmost heaviest, most ultra-furious heavy metal band in history. In the next episode of Battle of the Bands, Megadeth and Metallica reach escape velocity. If you enjoyed this episode of Battle of the Bands, I'd love it if you took just one moment to like, share, or subscribe wherever you listen to it. This episode was written, narrated, and produced by me, Steve Glaveski. For full sources without which this podcast would not be possible, visit nofilter.media/battle. Until next time, do those house lights.
This has been a No Filter Media production.
Say what you want.